Start full J full J na. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, esophagus. Okay, esophagus is important both in ENT and general surgery. And regarding the PG entrance, they will ask many questions from this esophagus topic. Okay, so today we will discuss 4 topics which are related to esophagus. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the topics congenital diaphragmatic hernia. CDH is congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And the second topic is hiatus hernia. And the third topic is GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. And the fourth topic is achalasia cardia. So today we are going to discuss the 4 topics: congenital diaphragmatic hernia, hiatus hernia, GERD, and achalasia cardia. So first we'll discuss about congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So in the word it is there, that is, it is a congenital. So congenital diaphragmatic hernia is a congenital condition. It is a congenital condition. So congenital diaphragmatic hernia is a congenital condition. See, this is the abdomen and this is the diaphragm. See, this is the abdomen and this is the diaphragm. In between the abdomen, in between the thorax and abdomen, there is a connection called as pleuroperitoneal tunnel. So in between the abdomen and the thorax, there is a connection called as pleuroperitoneal tunnels. So through this pleuroperitoneal tunnels, there is herniation of the abdominal contents like transverse colon, stomach, spleen. They herniate through this abdomen into the thorax via this pleuroperitoneal tunnel. So what is happening? There are 2 types of congenital hernia. So congenital diaphragmatic hernia is due to herniation of the abdominal contents through the pleuroperitoneal tunnel. So there are 2 types of congenital hernia. One is called as Bocadulac hernia. So the first one is Bocadulac hernia and the second one is Morgagni hernia. So the first one is Bocadulac hernia, congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and the second one is Morgagni hernia. Based on these 2, which is most common? Bocadulac hernia is the most common congenital diaphragmatic hernia compared to Morgagni diaphragmatic hernia. So Bocadulac diaphragmatic hernia, the code is LPL, whereas for Morgagni hernia, reverse of L, left is RAM. So Bocadulac hernia, LPL. What is LPL? The herniation of the contents occurs through left posterior lateral, LPL, where the contents of the abdomen will enter into the thorax through RAM, right anteromedian. right anteromedial. So in Burkitt-like hernia, the entry of the gastric contents enter through left posterolateral area of the thorax, whereas in Morgagni hernia it enters through right anteromedial. So what will happen in Burkitt-like hernia? See, this is the thorax. So in thorax there is herniation of the gastric contents, like your intestine. It is entering through left posterolateral. So what will happen when it is entering into the left posterolateral? The heart is pushed towards the right side. The heart will be pushed towards the right side. So what is happening in Burkitt-like hernia? Due to herniation of the intestines into the thorax, the heart is pushed towards the right side. So what are the symptoms due to this intestines entering into the thorax or entering into thorax? The heart is pushed to one side and the lungs are compressed. So compression of the lungs causes dyspnea and cardiac shift. And bowels in the thorax. So because of the shifting of the gastric contents into the thorax, the heart is pushed to one side and the lung is collapsed and the patient will have dyspnea, cardiac shift towards the right side and bowel sounds in the thorax. So what are the investigations? You can detect this case . Okay. So what are the investigations? We can detect this congenital diaphragmatic hernia in prenatal ultrasound. So prenatal ultrasound detects the congenital diaphragmatic hernia when the baby is in the womb. So after delivery, how can we detect the congenital diaphragmatic hernia? On auscultation of the lungs, we hear bowel sounds. We'll hear bowel sounds in the thorax instead of abdomen. And because of herniation of the contents from the abdomen into the thorax, the abdomen will be scaphoid. That means the abdomen will be like this, scaphoid. The abdomen will be scaphoid. Okay, I think you are visible. So because of the herniation of the contents from the abdomen, due to herniation of the contents from the abdomen into the thorax, we hear bowel sounds. We hear bowel sounds in the thorax and the heart is pushed towards the right side and the abdomen will be like this scaphoid appearance of the abdomen. So what are the features of the congenital diaphragmatic hernia? The features of the congenital diaphragmatic hernia is the heart will be pushed towards the right side because the intestines are entering from the left side. So we'll hear bowel sounds in the thorax. Actually the bowel sounds will be heard in the abdomen and the abdomen will become scaphoid. Why? Because of the herniation of the contents from the abdomen into thorax, there won't be any organs in the abdomen. So the abdomen will appear like scaphoid. So these are the features of the congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So what is the most common content which herniates into the thorax? That is stomach. This is the bit. So most common content which herniates into the thorax in Burkitt-like hernia is stomach. So, okay, these are the points regarding the Burkitt-like hernia. Important prognostic factor. Important prognostic factor which is important for the survival of the patient is pulmonary hypertension or pulmonary hypoplasia. That means the survival of the patient. Will depends on pulmonary hypertension of the patient or depends on pulmonary hypoplasia. That means how much lung is underdeveloped. Why lung is underdeveloped? The lung is underdeveloped because of the presence of the bowels in the thorax. The bowels in the thorax prevent the dilatation of the lungs. It prevents the dilatation of the lungs. So because of the bowels in the thorax, there will be pulmonary hyperplasia, there will be pulmonary hypertension. So prognosis of the congenital diaphragmatic hernia depends on the pulmonary hyperplasia or pulmonary hypertension. So they asked the question recently in the PG entrance that the prognosis of the congenital diaphragmatic hernia depends on the following factor. They have given the options like pulmonary hypertension. They have given the options like pulmonary hypertension, and they have given the options like degree of herniation of the gastric contents, and they give the option that lateral displacement of the heart. Which among the following is the important prognostic factor? The answer is pulmonary hypertension or pulmonary hypoplasia are the important prognostic factor which determines the survival of the baby in congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Okay. So when the bowels are present in the thorax, so what is contraindicated? Bag and mask. Bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated. What is bag and mask ventilation? Bag and mask ventilation is you're keeping the bag to the baby nose and you're pressing the mask ventilation and you're ventilating. So what is happening? The air is entering into the oral cavity and it is entering into the stomach and it is entering into the intestines, which has herniated into the thorax. So these bowels will get dilated because of the air which the baby is taking through bag and mask ventilation, and these bowels get dilated and they compress the lung completely, so the baby will land up in cyanosis and death. So bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated in congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So friends, what are the important points in the congenital diaphragmatic hernia? There are two types of congenital diaphragmatic hernia. They are Burkitt-like hernia and Morgagni hernia. Burkitt-like hernia, the entry of the organs is through LPL, left posterior lateral, whereas in Morgagni hernia, the entry of the organs is through left is opposite is right, posterior opposite is anterior, lateral is opposite is medial. So right anteromedial is for Morgagni hernia, and the herniation of the contents into the thorax will push the heart towards the right. As the intestines are entering towards the left, it pushes the heart towards the right. So there will be apex bit will be shifted towards the right side. So what are the findings we'll see? We'll see scaphoid abdomen. Why is scaphoid abdomen? Why the abdomen is scaphoid like this? Because the gastric contents are herniated into the thorax. The abdomen is scaphoid and the patient will have dyspnea because of the compression of the lung by this intestine, and instead of hearing bowel sounds in the abdomen, we are able to hear bowel sounds in the thorax. So what is the most important prognostic factor which determines the survival of the baby in congenital diaphragmatic hernia? Is the most important prognostic factor is pulmonary hypertension or pulmonary hypoplasia, which determine the survival of the baby in the Burkitt-like hernia. So prenatally, how can we diagnose this congenital diaphragmatic hernia? Prenatally, we can diagnose congenital diaphragmatic hernia by doing the prenatal ultrasound scan. So what is the investigation of the choice? The investigation of the choice is chest X-ray. By doing chest X-ray, we are able to see the bowels present in the chest and pushing of the heart towards the opposite side. Okay, so bag and mask ventilation. Bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated in congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated in congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So how you will manage the case? So we will manage the case first by passing the Ryle's tube into the stomach and intestine and aspirate the gas from the bowels so that the bowels will get compressed and the lungs can expand. After that, we'll plan for a surgical treatment. What surgical treatment we'll do? We'll remove this intestines or this gastric contents from the thorax and we'll push it into the abdomen and we'll close the defect. What is the name of the defect? The defect is pleuroperitoneal tunnel. We'll close the pleuroperitoneal tunnel by keeping a mesh. We reduce the gastric contents and we'll close the tunnel by using a mesh. So mesh repair of the pleuroperitoneal cavity pleuroperitoneal canal after reducing the gastric contents into the abdomen is the treatment of choice for congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Okay. So we discussed about the Bochet-like hernia. The second one is called as Morgagni hernia. The second one is called as Morgagni hernia. So in Morgagni hernia, they'll ask only one question. Morgagni, M-O-R-G-A-G-N-I. What is the most common content of the Morgagni hernia? The most common content is transverse colon. So most common content of the Morgagni hernia is transverse colon. So we completed the congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Now we will talk about the GERD. What is GERD? GERD is gastroesophageal reflux disease. So this is the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm. This is the esophagus. This is the stomach. So this is called as lower esophageal sphincter. Lower esophageal sphincter. So how this sphincter is functioning, how there is prevention of reflux of the gastric acid from the esophagus, from the stomach into the esophagus. So this gastric acid is prevented, this gastric acid reflux from the stomach this gastric acid reflux from the stomach into the esophagus is prevented by this lower esophageal sphincter. So how this lower esophageal sphincter is closed? It is by few mechanisms. This is called as angle of His. Angle of His. That is angle formed by the cardia part of the stomach with the esophagus. This is called as angle of His. This angle of His prevents the reflux of the acid from the stomach into the esophagus. Not only that, this is the crust of the diaphragm. This is the crust of the diaphragm. The crust of the diaphragm also will cause kinking effect or will cause compression effect on the lower esophageal sphincter. And these fibers of the cardia, some fibers of the cardia also help in forming the lower esophageal sphincter. And the intra-abdominal pressure is high compared to intrathoracic pressure. So this intra-abdominal pressure is very high compared to intrathoracic pressure. This intra-abdominal pressure will compress the lower esophageal sphincter. So lower esophageal sphincter pressure is maintained by angle of His, fibers of cardia, increased intra-abdominal pressure, and this crura of the diaphragm. This crura or crust of the diaphragm. So sometimes we'll have a hernia which is called as hiatus hernia. Hiatus, H-I-A-T-U-S. What is hiatus? Hiatus is defect in the diaphragm through which esophagus will pass. So hiatus hernia is 4 types: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. Okay, in type 1, we'll see that, this is the lower esophageal sphincter. This lower esophageal sphincter, due to hernia, that means herniation, due to herniation, this lower esophageal sphincter will be above the abdomen, that means above the diaphragm. So this lower esophageal sphincter is present in the thorax. So what will happen in thorax? There is less pressure. Whereas in abdomen, there is high pressure. So in abdomen, there is high pressure. In thorax, there is less pressure. This lower esophageal sphincter is pulled up into the thorax. It is present in thorax. So from high pressure, the fluid will get reflexed into the low pressure. Okay. So this type of hernia, type 1 hiatus hernia, it is called as sliding hernia. Why sliding hernia? The lower esophageal sphincter slides into the thorax. So it is called a sliding hernia, which leads to reflux of the acid, causing GERD. This is called a sliding hernia. So if they ask the question, which is the most common hiatus hernia? The most common hiatus hernia is type 1, which is called as sliding hernia. Then what is rolling hernia? The rolling hernia is the gastroesophageal sphincter lies in the abdomen. This is abdomen, this is thorax. But the stomach will roll like this. This is the stomach. The stomach will roll into the thorax, but lower esophageal sphincter will lie in the abdomen. Only the stomach content is going upwards into the thorax. This will cause ischemia of the stomach, but there won't be any reflux. Why there is no any reflux of the gastric contents into the esophagus? Because the lower esophageal sphincter is present in the abdomen. So abdomen has high pressure. This high pressure will compress the lower esophageal sphincter. So rolling of the stomach into the thorax, by keeping the lower esophageal sphincter in the abdomen only, there is no movement of the lower esophageal sphincter into the thorax, like in sliding hernia. This type of hernia is called as rolling hernia. Rolling hernia or paraesophageal hernia. What is type 3? Type 3 is you mix type 1 and type 2. That is sliding hernia plus rolling hernia. That means what will happen? This is the crura of the sliding plus rolling. See, this is the crura of the abdomen. This is the crura of the diaphragm. So the stomach, fundus of the stomach, along with lower esophageal sphincter, both will enter into the thorax. This is called as mixed. That means we are mixing type 1. Type 1 means what? Lower esophageal sphincter, only lower esophageal sphincter is entering into the thorax, causing GERD, because abdominal pressure is high compared to intrathoracic pressure. Type 2 is lower esophageal sphincter is present in the abdomen only. It is not present in the thorax, but the stomach herniates into the thorax. Type 3, I am mixing both of this. That means lower esophageal sphincter is above. Stomach fundus is also above. This is called as mixed type of hiatus hernia. Mixed type of hiatus hernia has both sliding hernia. That means lower esophageal sphincter is entered into the thorax, leading to GERD, plus rolling hernia. That means stomach fundus is also entering into the thorax. Type 4. Type 4 is nothing but type 3. Type 3, that means stomach along with intestine herniation. So there are total 4 types of hiatus hernia: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. Type 1, lower esophageal sphincter enters into the thorax. Type 2, lower esophageal sphincter is present in the abdomen. So abdominal pressure will compress the lower esophageal sphincter. Only the stomach is entering into the thorax. Type 3, lower esophageal sphincter and stomach both will enter into the thorax. This is the thorax. This is the abdomen. Type 4, type 3, that is lower esophageal sphincter, cardia or stomach, cardia part of the stomach, along with intestine, some small intestine or large intestine. If it enters, it is called as type 4. So, students, can anyone say among all these 4 hernias, in which hernia we won't see GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, is absent in type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4? Please message me the answer. Excellent. It is in type 2. This is the question asked many times in the PG entrance examination. Because why in type 2? In type 2, the lower esophageal sphincter is present in the abdomen, whereas in type 1, it is present in the thorax. Type 3 is nothing but combination of type 1 and type 2. Type 4 is nothing but type 3, which is nothing but combination of type 1 and type 2 along with intestine. So second question, name the hiatus hernia in which we will see herniation of the intestines along with stomach into the thorax. Answer please. Excellent. It is type 4. This question is repeated number of times in PG entrance examination. Okay, it is type 4. So type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. Okay. So now we'll study about GERD. So most of our students or most of our parents in the house, they will say the complaint that during the sleep, we are getting something which is bitter in taste and which is entering into the throat and causing uneasiness or pain sensation in the throat. That is nothing but your GERD. So one thing I want to say, if the patient complain of dry cough, you have to continuous dry cough for a long period, for more than 6 months. So you have to exclude 3 things. These are the gunshot answers. What are the 3 things? The first thing is sinusitis. In sinusitis, the sphenoid sinusitis or posterior ethmoidal sinusitis will cause postnasal drip. So sphenoid or posterior ethmoidal sinusitis, they cause postnasal drip. It comes from back of the nose and it irritates the larynx, causing dry cough. So long duration dry cough is because of your sinusitis. And the second one is nothing but your GERD. This gastroesophageal reflux disease, the acid will come out of the esophagus and it irritates the larynx. What is third one? The third one is nothing but your interstitial lung disease. What is interstitium? Interstitium is nothing but a connective tissue which is present between the alveoli and the blood vessel. The tissue which is present between the alveoli and blood vessel is nothing but your interstitium. So there are 2 types of pneumonia: typical pneumonia, atypical pneumonia. Typical pneumonia is nothing but which involves the alveoli and the bronchi. If it involves the bronchi and the alveoli, it is called as typical pneumonia. But if pneumonia or inflammation involving the interstitium, it is called as atypical pneumonia or interstitial pneumonia. So interstitial pneumonia, every time there will be dry cough, like your influenza virus, this coronavirus. In coronavirus, you will see interstitial pneumonia or interstitial lung disease, which causes a dry cough. So in the symptoms, they will say dry cough. Dry cough is nothing but because of this interstitial lung disease. And interstitial lung disease is also seen in silicosis, asbestosis, asbestosis. They will cause interstitial lung disease, which will lead to dry cough. And interstitial lung disease causes dry cough. So dry cough are because of sinusitis, which causes postnasal drip. It is because of GERD. This reflux of the acid will irritate the larynx, and because of interstitial lung disease. So in dry cough for long duration, you exclude all the 3 factors, and if you treat any of this factor, this dry cough will get eliminated. So GERD. Why we are getting gastroesophageal reflux disease? Can anybody say what is happening? Why we are getting gastroesophageal reflux disease? What is opening? What is the defect there? Yes, excellent. Lower esophageal sphincter. The lower esophageal sphincter is not competent. So because of the incompetent lower esophageal sphincter, the acid from the stomach is entering into the esophagus. Esophagus causing GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So what are the causes which relax the sphincter or which decrease the tone of the lower esophageal sphincter? Can anybody say? Few reasons. Daily activity, eating biryani, Hyderabadi biryani, spicy food. We'll take coffee daily. For what? For watching TV. Otherwise, we'll get sleep. Okay, so we are taking coffee. So coffee is also a factor. Still what? Not peptic ulcer. It is peppermint. Still what? P for P, progesterone. So during pregnancy, the pregnant lady will complain of heartburn. That means there's burning sensation in the heart. Why the pregnant woman is complaining of burning sensation of heart? Because of which enzyme? Because of which hormone? It is because of progesterone. This progesterone during pregnancy, it relaxes the lower esophageal sphincter. So the pregnant woman will be complaining of GERD because of the hormone progesterone, which decreases the tone of the lower esophageal sphincter. So name the hormone which decreases the tone of the lower esophageal sphincter during pregnancy. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, none of the above. The answer is progesterone. Okay, next theophylline. What is theophylline? Theophylline we'll use in asthma, bronchial asthma. This theophylline is also lowers the lower esophageal sphincter pressure. Apart from all this, we have drugs, calcium channel blockers, nitrates. They relax the lower esophageal sphincter pressure. Apart from that, we also have prostaglandin E1, prostaglandin E2. Prostaglandins, nitrates, calcium channel blockers, spicy food, coffee, peppermint, progesterone, theophylline, fatty foods, eating full chicken during night time and sleeping, you will get gastroesophageal reflux disease. If you eat chicken along with alcohol, will also relax the lower esophageal sphincter. So students, just remember what are the conditions which lower the lower esophageal sphincter. Then they'll ask the causes. Don't remember the causes of increase in lower esophageal sphincter tone. You just remember this so that you can exclude the other factors. So in the question, if they ask which won't cause decrease in the tone of the lower esophageal sphincter, if the options are not this, you mark the which one is out of this table. Okay. If they ask the question, all these factors will increase the lower esophageal sphincter tone, except see for this answer. If they ask the question that all these factors will decrease the lower esophageal sphincter, except, so remember all these factors and which are not there in the, which is out of this table, you can answer that it increases the lower esophageal sphincter pressure. So write this table, very important. In GRD, if you write this table, it is enough. 90% of the syllabus is 90% of the topic is based on the conditions which lower the lower esophageal sphincter. So any problem in understanding the subject, if you have any problem, please mention in the message. So what is the most common symptom of the GERD? It is heartburn. Burning sensation in the heart. Okay. So one question, this is the esophagus. So the acid is continuously getting reflected into the, this is the stomach. The acid is continuously reflecting into the esophagus. So actually the esophagus is lined with squamous cells. But because of the reflex, these squamous cells are converted into the, which cells? It is converted into the columnar epithelium. Squamous epithelium is converted into the columnar epithelium. This conversion is called as, in pathology word is called as, excellent, it is metaplasia. So due to this GRD, due to this reflex of the stomach contents into the esophagus, what malignancy you can expect after metaplasia? I'm asking what malignancy. Barrett's is correct only, but what is the name of the malignancy? It is adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma. Okay. What malignancy or what carcinoma you can expect? You can expect the adenocarcinoma. But most common malignancy of the esophagus is? Most common malignancy of the esophagus is? Any answer? Can anyone answer? See the line. Squamous cell carcinoma. But most common malignancy in GRD is adenocarcinoma. It is because of the reflex of the gastric contents. Okay. So, what are all the advices you will give to your family members to prevent this GRD? You will tell them to avoid smoking and alcohol. Keep the head side of the bed elevated. That means you sleep like this, keeping the head elevation, so that the reflex, there won't be any reflex of the acid. Take proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole. Don't avoid fatty, heavy meals at bedtime or night time. So, to prevent GRD, avoid smoking and alcohol. Keep the head end of the bed elevated. Use proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole and avoid fatty, heavy meals during the night times. So if you avoid all this, you will prevent the gastroesophageal reflux disease. So you have taken all the precautions, that is head end of the bed elevation, then you have stopped taking coffee and tea, and you are taking pantoprazole since 6 months, but there is no improvement in the gastroesophageal reflux disease. It is still coming. So what is the surgery you will advise the patient to take? Can anyone write the name of the surgery? Do you have any idea? See, this is the stomach. What is happening? This is the esophagus. What is happening? The esophagus sphincter is incompetent. This is the sphincter. This is the sphincter. This is incompetent. So the reflux is coming out into the esophagus. So what you will do? You will wrap the stomach. You will wrap the stomach around the esophagus. This is the stomach. My diagram is worst, but I'll see. This is the stomach. You are wrapping the upper part of the stomach around the esophagus at the lower esophageal sphincter region. You are wrapping it. This wrapping is called as, what is the name of the surgery? Can anybody? One specific name is there. You are wrapping the fundus around the lower esophageal sphincter. This is called as fundoduplication. So fundoduplication is a surgery of choice for gastroesophageal reflux disease. So please write down the names of the fundoduplication. This is anterior wrapping. This is the posterior wrapping. That is the wrapping of the fundus around the lower esophageal sphincter. This is the anterior wrapping. This is a posterior wrapping. If you wrap the fundus anteriorly, it is called as anterior wrapping. If you wrap the fundus posterior to the esophagus, it is called as posterior wrapping. So write down the names. Watson is 90 degrees wrapping. Dorr, 180 degrees wrapping. Belce4, 270 degrees wrapping. When you come to posterior, Taupet, 180 degrees wrapping. Nizens, 360 degrees wrapping. So please write down all the names of this surgery names, because they're asking in the entrance bit. And if they ask the question GRD, if you write all these answers, you'll get full marks and you'll get distinction. So anterior wrapping is Watson, 90 degrees. Dorr is 180 degrees. Belce4 is 270 degrees. Posterior wrapping is Taupet, 180. Nizens, fundoduplication, 360 degrees. So these are all the surgeries for the GRD apart from the medical treatment. So most common symptom of the GRD is heartburn. Now, so we have completed what? Congenital diaphragmatic hernia. We have completed hiatus hernia. We have completed GRD. So last, what topic I said I will complete? Last one, apart from GRD, last one. Can anyone message? One remaining topic. Are everybody sleeping? Eclasia. Yes. Eclasia cardia. Eclasia cardia. So, students, in esophagus, The nerve supply of the esophagus is by which nerve? Vagus nerve. Yes or no? There are two sympathetic plexus. One is myenteric plexus. The second one is Meissner's plexus. Myenteric plexus will supply what? Myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus will supply the smooth muscle of esophagus, whereas Meissner's will supply the glands, which increases the secretions. So achalasia cardia is nothing but your esophageal motility disorder. Motility means movement. Motility disorder. So where do you expect the problem is? Is it in myenteric plexus or Meissner's plexus? I'm saying motility disorder. So achalasia cardia, where do you expect the defect? Myenteric or Meissner's? Excellent. It is myenteric plexus, because the myenteric plexus will supply the smooth muscle, which is helpful for the contraction of the esophageal muscles. So it is defect in the myenteric plexus. So we are having defect in the contractions of the smooth muscles. So what the most common symptom you can expect in achalasia cardia? Anybody? What is the symptom you can expect in achalasia cardia? Anyone? The esophageal muscle is not able to contract and send the food into the stomach. So what is the symptom you are able to expect? Okay, decreased peristalsis. I am asking the symptom. Excellent. It is dysphagia. It is dysphagia. Dysphagia for solids or liquids? What you can expect? Dysphagia for solids or liquids? Solids. No, it is for liquids. Why? The solids can move into the esophagus because of gravity. Because of gravitational force, or because of more weight of the solids can be easily get into the stomach. But liquids, even though the weight is less, it cannot enter into the stomach because of less weight and less gravitational force acting on the liquids. So in achalasia cardia, the dysphagia is more for the solids compared to the liquids. The dysphagia is more for the solids compared to the liquids. So the esophagus will get dilated like this. This is the lower esophageal sphincter. So because of absence of the myenteric plexus, there won't be any peristaltic movement in the esophagus, and there won't be any relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter. So what will happen? The pressure in the esophagus will increase. The pressure in the esophagus will increase because of the closure of the lower esophageal sphincter, because of the absence of myenteric plexus, and because of the absence of the contractions of the muscles, smooth muscles of the esophagus. The esophagus is dilated and lower esophageal sphincter is closed. So there will be increase in pressure. So when the pressures are high here, what is the investigation of choice you can expect in achalasia cardia? Pressure. We have to measure the pressure. The pressure will be nearly more than 35 mm of Hg. So what is the investigation of choice? Can anyone answer the investigation of choice for achalasia cardia? I am saying the pressure is increasing. So what is the instrument to measure the pressure? Manometry, M-A-N-O-M-E-T-R-Y. So investigation of choice for achalasia cardia is not barium meal. It is manometry. On doing manometry, the pressure will be more than 35 mm of Hg in the esophagus because of the closure of the lower esophageal sphincter and because of the absence of the peristalsis. So the air will accumulate here increasing the pressure. So investigation of choice for achalasia cardia is manometry, number of times asked question. So investigation of the choice for achalasia cardia is barium meal, barium enema, manometry, X-ray, chest. What is the answer? Answer. Manometry. Okay, so the segment which does not have myotic plexus is dilated. Okay, so if you do barium marrow, barium meal, if you do barium meal, it appears, the esophagus appears like this. What is this side? On doing barium meal, the esophagus will appear like this. What is this? What is this? This is a bird. What is this sign called as? Excellent. It is bird beak sign. So bird beak sign on barium meal is a characteristic feature of achalasia cardia. Please remember this. So what is the treatment of choice? The treatment of choice is you'll give incision on the muzzle, so that the muzzle, incision on the muzzle and the sphincter. So this is called as what type of surgery? Heller's myotomy. So you are giving incision on the muzzle of the esophagus, and you are giving incision on the muscles of the sphincter. This is called as Heller's myotomy. So Heller's myotomy is a treatment of choice for achalasia cardia. So what are the features of achalasia cardia? The features of achalasia cardia is, it is because of absence of the myotic plexus. So the segment which does not have myotic plexus is dilated. Dysphagia for liquids. Dysphagia is for liquids compared to the solids. Dysphagia is more for the liquids compared to the solids. So the pressure at the lower esophageal sphincter is more than 35 mm of Hg. So the investigation of choice for achalasia cardia is manometry. So what is the treatment of choice? The treatment of choice is one myotomy called as Heller's myotomy. The myotomy, name of the myotomy is Heller's myotomy. So what I am discussing with you is all important points, just gunshot points. If you write that points, the exam is, the topic is over. Nothing to by heart, incidents, how many people died, how many people are alive, and how many are taking biryani because of this achalasia cardia, and how many are taking curd rice. That is not necessary for surgical branches. That epidemics you use in the SPM, but here you write the only the silent features, only the important features, okay, in achalasia cardia, so that you will get a good marks. So can anybody say what is the differential diagnosis of achalasia cardia? Means same mechanism or same pathophysiology or same absence of the myotic plexus is present in the anus or in the rectum, in the anus. What is the name of that? What is the disease called as? Can anybody? Excellent. What is the name of her? 17807108. What is your name? Hirschsprung disease. Your name, please. Meena. Excellent. Wonderful. It is nothing but Hirschsprung disease. It is present at anorectum, rectal junction, anus and rectum. So this is the achalasia cardia. So it is at one end, upper end. This is at the lower end. So what is the difference between these two, achalasia cardia and Hirschsprung disease? In achalasia cardia, we have absence of the myotic plexus, whereas in Hirschsprung disease, there is absence of Meissner's and myenteric plexus. In achalasia cardia, the segment which does not have myenteric plexus is dilated. Whereas in Hirschsprung disease, the segment which does not have both mesos and myenteric plexus is compressed. Okay. In achalasia cardia, the investigation of choice is manometry. Whereas in Hirschsprung disease, the investigation of choice is rectal biopsy. You will take the biopsy from the rectum. It is not present in the anus. It is present in the Hirschsprung disease, the disease of the rectum, not anus, rectum. So what is the treatment of choice for achalasia cardia? Anybody? Treatment of choice for achalasia cardia? Meena? Heller's myotomy. Excellent. Then what is the treatment of choice for Hirschsprung disease? It is pull-up surgeries. What you will do? You will pull up the rectum and get attached to the intestine, which is present above. That is descending colon. Okay, you will pull up the rectum and you get attached to the descending colon, so that nerves will cause motility of this rectum. The name is pull-up surgeries. What are the names of the pull-up surgeries? Sovs, Swenson's, Duhamel. So pull-up surgery is the treatment of choice for Hirschsprung disease. Names are Sovs, Swenson's and Duhamel. So today we have completed the topic of GERD, hiatus hernia, achalasia cardia, and another one. What is the remaining one? We forgot. First topic, congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So anyone having the doubts? Any doubts? So I'll ask you some questions. Please answer. Bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated in. Please message me the answer. Bag and mask ventilation. Excellent. Congenital diaphragm. Please write your name also along with the answer. So bag and mask ventilation is contraindicated in congenital diaphragmatic hernia. What is the most common type of congenital diaphragmatic hernia? What is the most common type of congenital diaphragmatic hernia? Yes, most common type. Two types are there now. Type 1, what is the name of the type 1? Bochet-Lack hernia. Excellent. The second one is Morgagni hernia. Okay. So what are the features of congenital diaphragmatic hernia? Write any 3 symptoms. Write along with your name. Respiratory distress, not dysphonia, respiratory distress, shifting of the apex beat. Excellent. And dyspnea, scaphoid abdomen. The abdomen is scaphoid. So what is the most common content of the Morgagni hernia? What is the most common content? Morgagni hernia. What is the most common content of the Morgagni hernia? Transverse colon. Excellent. It is asked a number of times. Okay. What is the entry of root of the Bochet-Lack hernia? Where it enters? Is it left posterolateral? Yes. Morgagni? That is opposite. Right anteromedial. Right anteromedial. So prognostic factor of congenital diaphragmatic hernia is, what is the prognostic factor of congenital diaphragmatic hernia? Important prognostic factor. Pulmonary hypertension or pulmonary hypoplasia. Okay. Next, GERD. Why the pregnant woman will have GERD? Because of which hormone? Excellent. Progesterone. Progesterone is a hormone which causes, name the anti-asthmatic drug which causes GERD. Anti-asthmatic drug. Theophylline. Okay. Fundoduplication is the treatment of choice for fundoduplication. Fundoduplication. GERD. Okay. What is the most common type of hiatus hernia? What is the most common type of hiatus hernia? Is it sliding? It is rolling. Sliding, rolling, mixed, combined. Last type 4 is combined. Name the hiatus hernia in which intestines enters into the thorax. Type 4. Name the hiatus hernia in which GRD is absent. GRD is absent. Type 2. Why it is absent? What is the reason? Because the lower esophageal sphincter is present in the abdomen. Yes or no? Excellent. What is the treatment of choice for achalasia cardia? Achalasia cardia. Achalasia cardia. Investigation of choice. Investigation of choice, not surgery of choice. Investigation of choice. Manometry. What is the investigation of choice for Hirschsprung disease? Hirschsprung disease. Investigation of choice. Rectal biopsy. Rectal biopsy. So what is the treatment of choice for GRD? Surgery of choice for GRD. Surgery of choice for GERD. GERD, fundoduplication, Watson, Dorr, Taupet, they are anterior. Watson, Dorr, Belsefour, they are anterior. And posterior is Taupet and Nissen's fundoduplication. So among all these 5, which is most commonly used fundoduplication? Can anyone guess? Excellent. It is Nissen's fundoduplication which is most commonly used in GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So I'll ask you one clinical question. One American is continuously, he is taking Pepsi, daily 3 to 4 liters of Pepsi along with KFC chicken for nearly 3-4 years. Then later he started progressive dysphagia for solids and liquids. Okay. So on doing upper G endoscopy, there is a lesion at the lower 1/3 of the esophagus. So what is the malignancy you can suspect at lower esophageal sphincter? I mean at lower 1/3 of the esophagus. What malignancy you will suspect? It is adenocarcinoma. And what is the reason for it? What is the reason behind for it? Why he is getting adenocarcinoma? Why? Metaplasia. What metaplasia? It is what metaplasia? Excellent. Columnar metaplasia. Why this columnar metaplasia? The fatty person, why he is getting? Innocent person. Just he is taking Pepsi. Why he is getting that? He is taking just Pepsi. GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, caused metaplasia, columnar metaplasia, which has led to Barrett's esophagus, which has led to adenocarcinoma, which is most common site of the adenocarcinoma is lower 1/3 of the esophagus. So I think I cover up all these 4 topics, which are very, very important topics from the esophagus. So if anyone is having doubts, please mention it. Or if any problem on my side, please mention it so that I'll correct next time. Okay. Waiting any message. Any trouble? Any problem? See, you have covered up all the PG entrance bits when we are discussing the topic. And not only that, you can write easily. If they give 4 marks question regarding GERD, you can write all the surgeries and everything. And if they ask the question about the achalasia cardia, you can write everything. And there is nothing problem regarding these topics. You can easily answer that. Okay. So please go home and study the topics. Next time we'll discuss the remaining topics and we'll complete the esophagus. So any doubts? Shall I close the session? Who is Meena? Where is Meena? (17807108). So, did you study previously this topic? How you are able to answer? Did you study previously this topic? No, sir. Okay, you are having good IQ. You're catching everything in first explanation only. Quiz. What quiz? What about boys? Where are you? This third day. Okay. In general surgery, yeah? Quiz is in general surgery. Of Shraddha. Quiz of Shraddha. AMC. Excellent. Wonderful. Keep it up. You'll definitely get good marks in the PG entrance. What about boys? Okay, nice. What about boys? Where are the boys? Switch off the mobiles or switch off the computers. At least one response from someone. Any boy available in the group, or only girls are seeing the messages? How to differentiate between a heartburn and heart pain? So can you say the name of this lady? 17807009. Heartburn and heart pain or angina. Who asked this question? Uday. Oh, one boy is listening. Okay, surprising. See, Uday, angina is nothing but it is due to myocardial ischemia. Blood supply decreased to the heart, to the coronary arteries, like your left coronary artery, right coronary artery. So that when the patient has angina, there is a typical Levine sign. What is Levine sign? The patient complaining of, see, Levine sign, the patient complains that he is getting the pain by holding the chest. This position is called as Levine sign, and the patient complains of breathlessness. Most commonly, the pain will start in the early morning. Why in the early morning? There will be atherosclerosis and the blood vessels will go into constriction. Coronary artery will go into constriction during the early morning hours. So during early morning hours, if the patient comes to your OPD with Levine sign, chest pain, breathlessness, chest pain, breathlessness, and sweating because of increased sympathetic activity, the patient will have sweating, tachycardia, Levine sign, and the pain is radiates to the hand and the jaw. All these features will favor towards the angina, and the patient is elderly patient or young patient, and the patient has a history of smoking or diabetic mellitus, or he will be having hypertension. They all will lead to atherosclerosis. So the patient is complaining of early morning chest pain, typically in the left side of the chest, typically holding the hand on the chest, and the pain is radiating to the hand of the chin, and the patient is complaining of breathlessness, tachycardia, sweating, frequent urination, sweating, tachycardia, and all this will favor to the angina pectoris. So you will plan for ECG, and you will see the ECG changes like ST elevation, T wave inversion, ST elevation and T wave inversion to rule out myocard, to rule out MI. But before doing ECG, you will give the patient tablets like aspirin, clopidogrel, and atorvastatin, so that to decrease the symptoms of the patient and to increase the life of the patient till he go for the nearest cardiology center. So you give him clopidogrel, aspirin, and atorvastatin. What about GRD? GRD complaints, patient complains of pain during the night time. When he goes into the sleep, the reflex of the acid will enter into the neck or enter into the esophagus because of supine position, and the patient will typically tell us about the burning sensation rather than pain which is like compressing type. That means pain which is spasmodic type of pain. He complained of burning sensation of the pain in retrosternal area, and the patient has a history of frequent taking of coffees and alcohol and fatty foods, and the pain is relieved by taking pantoprazole or by taking the syrup like sucralfate. Okay, so any patient comes with the chest pain, first, which is dangerous? Angina is dangerous, or your GRD is dangerous? Which is dangerous? Which will kill the patient? Which is dangerous? Yes, angina is dangerous. The patient, so if you miss the angina, the patient will definitely die. But if you miss that GRD, the patient won't die, but he will be having the discomfort in the chest. So first you rule out the angina by taking the history of the patient. The history early morning during winter seasons, the patient come to your OPD with severe breathlessness, with chest pain, typical Levine sign, by keeping the hand on the left side of the chest, and the pain is radiating to the arm and the forearm and fingers, and it is radiating to the chest, radiating to the chin, and the patient is having palpitations along with breathlessness, then you will suspect, if he is an elderly patient with comorbidities like hypertension and diabetic, you will suspect it is an angina, and you will go for an ECG, where you will see the ECG changes like ST elevation and T-wave inversion, and you first plan to give him clopidogrel, aspirin, atorvastatin, and shift him to nearest hospital so that he'll get troponin IT done, and if possible, he can undergo the treatment like percutaneous intervention or thrombolysis. Okay, if it is GRD, if ECG is normal, you can directly give him pantoprazole or sucralfate and tell him avoid all these foods like coffee, tea, peppermint, so that we can decrease the GRD, and the patient may not land up in adenocarcinoma if he stops coffee, tea, peppermint, and GRD comes under control. Okay, any question? So you are able to understand. So any question? Still? Any questions? Your class strength is 150, but only 85 members are participating. Any questions? Okay, no more questions. Okay, have a nice day. Okay. Giri, da. Is it?